Here we go then, England 4, Croatia 2, as Thomas Tuchel's team kick off their World Cup campaign in style. Craig Burley, Kieran, Gibbs, Stewart Robson, Nedum Onuoha alongside me to reflect on what we saw take place in Texas. To take you through it quickly, it'd be Harry Kane who would open the scoring from the spot. That was at the second chance after the goalkeeper penalised for coming off his line. A brilliant goal though from Baturina would make it 1-1. Harry Kane with a header to make it 2-1, but Musa finished off a great team move to make it 2-2 before the break. Jude Bellingham, though, would score pretty much early on in the second half to make it 3-2. And then Marcus Rashford coming on as a second half substitute to seal the deal. England with the victory, defeating Croatia and giving the Three Lions 3 points to kick things off. Former England international Kieran Gibbs, you happy?
Positive start. I think can't get too carried away, but scoring 4 goals in an opening World Cup game, I think they'll take that all day. I think concerns would be conceding 2 goals. I didn't concede a goal in the whole of the qualifying, so I think that will be a bit of a concern. But I think they just had too much star power for Croatia. I think too much physicality. I thought the first half they really needed to grow into the game, into the tournament, which is normal. But all in all, I think we have a team that probably lacks a little bit of identity, but is a moments team, and that's what I feel that is going to take us far in this tournament.
And Robbo, you drive quite a toxic narrative when it comes to England, despite the fact you are English.
Well, I won't say we like Kieran just did.
Well, that's okay. He's allowed to say we.
I'm English.
He played for England. That's allowed.
England in the first half, I didn't think played particularly well. There was no patterns of play. They played at a slow tempo. Croatia had large periods of the play. They scored the 2 goals from open play. England scored them from a set play and a header from a corner. But the second half, they played with a greater intensity. They played higher up the field. They won the ball back in midfield. And they had too much for Croatia. They were physically better, they were technically better, and in the end, stronger.
They were good.
Yeah, I think they were. I think it's been described pretty well. And I think the key part from an England perspective was just the start of the second half. Jude Bellingham scoring that goal, I think, in the 47th minute. And then they had so much momentum from then, which is the exact opposite of after they took the lead in the first half, where it felt like they almost dropped back just that little bit. I think in the first half, for me, Croatia were the better side. But the second half and the way that England were just putting Croatia under pressure to start that half, I think they're deserved winners, and it's a positive. I think Kieran's made a good point that defensively they hadn't conceded through all of qualifying. But then I think, in my opinion, you need to give credit to Croatia for the goals that they scored. They were 2 really, really good goals. I think possible negatives, Declan Rice came off and looked like he was limping. That's not great. And I think for the way that the game started, I thought England looked a little bit nervous. Croatia came and put it on them, immediately trying to press them high. I think England gave away a corner from just passing it out themselves within the first 2 minutes. And you kind of would have hoped that the players would do better than that. But ultimately, 4 goals, 4-2 win, happy days.
Yeah, thoroughly deserved the win.
Absolutely, and I don't think it was a huge surprise, but no need for Harry Kane in the first half to be dropping as deep as he was.
Right.
Almost into between the centre halves at one point. Now, I know he drops a little bit deep and he sprays some balls about, but that was a little bit too much, and it was a little pedestrian in the first half for England. The first 20 minutes or so of the second half, it was brilliant. I mean, it was just peppering that goal. When you can go to the bench and your 3 subs are Rodgers, Rashford and Saka, and you've left Foden and Cole Palmer at home, that's pretty good. Game changers, and they did. It was a little tight at the end, but, England are strong. We know they'll create chances. We know Kane will get his goals. We know they have some options in the wide area with Madueke and Gordon and Saka and whatnot, different type of players. What we're going to find out is the pairing at the back and the back 4. And the goalkeeper, I thought, looked a little edgy at times today, Jordan Pickford. But that's the area that England will have to, I think, brush up on if they're going to go all the way in this competition, because that's the one area of the team you can really get at them. But in terms of going forward, when it clicked for England, they were really good. Yeah,
Harry Kane, once again amongst the goals, Kieran, and obvious, if England are going to go all the way in this tournament, they need him to continue to find the back of the net.
Do you know what? I honestly sometimes think to myself, where would we have been without him in the last, the last probably 8 years now. I think he's pretty much been the focal point of the England team, and I look at the other strikers that we have, and we have, I think, good strikers to be able to come off the bench and make an impact. But in terms of his overall game, I'm very grateful that we have him because how many goals is that he's scored now?
Well, 61, didn't he? And 61 this season, and then obviously.
I don't think people realise there's a lot of people out there that just look to sort of denigrate people's achievements, right? Can't do this, can't do that. For a guy that's never been the quickest, his ability to, I've said this many times, his record for Tottenham, Bayern Munich and England is incredible. Absolutely incredible. Now, people can talk about penalties and other stuff. Most strikers score penalties. I didn't like what he did in the first half, but generally his all-round game, I've never seen that in a striker. I've seen strikers that can do different things and link-up play and all that. I've rarely seen, and boys can sort of correct me if somebody, but I've rarely seen a guy that's as clinical a penalty box striker as Harry Kane, and yet he can drop into the middle of the park, not too deep, hopefully, and play passes about like one of the best passing midfielders in the game. It's quite a skill set to have, and he has it in abundance.
What he's got to have is people that complement his game, which he's got in the team at the moment. Anthony Gordon didn't have his most effective game, I don't think, but he's somebody that likes to make runs from outside to in. We saw Madueke do it on several occasions when Kane went deep, too deep, as Craig said, at times, and he made those runs from outside to in. And you've got Jude Bellingham, who, whenever he's playing at his best for Real Madrid, it's been when he's been in the number 10 role and he's making dynamic runs into the box. And, of course, he scored a very good goal today. Yeah,
I think that's the point for me, the fact that players need to complement him in terms of how good he is. And I think you saw that in some ways for the goal that Jude Bellingham scored.
Remember Son, when he was playing for Tottenham, who was a runner, and he's got those sort of players alongside him.
Do we think this is England's best team? It was just on the screen there.
I don't think so, no.
Or do we think that... I think he's nailed the sort of Bellingham-Rodgers one to the mast, no?
Well, they were saying before the game that it was apparently 50-50. But for me, I'd always go Bellingham playing that role.
Right, and Madueke and Gordon, two guys that get at you really quickly in a direct. Is the sort of Madueke maybe just nursing Bukayo Saka a little bit?
Surely Konsa Stones is the big question, considering the way in which they conceded those two goals, isn't it?
No. Look, we said that the two goals from Croatia were really good goals.
But we've got to find...
We were talking about upstairs.
We've got to find a scapegoat somewhere.
I know that's what I mean. What's going on here?
If Gay or Stones, who would you play? And you said to me,
I said Gay just because he'd been playing in the back half of the season.
Then that's not the strongest team.
Well, for this World Cup, maybe it is.
Thomas Tuchel in his mind.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, exactly. For this World Cup, maybe it is. But those two goals were really good goals. And you throwing that grenade out there.
Be careful what you say upstairs when we're watching the game.
Oh gosh, yeah, you're not wrong. I thought they were two really good goals. Two very good finishes, and it was quality. The header from Perisic for the second goal. Like, I thought, what's he doing? But then it's a great finish. The time to run the ball in behind, and the finish from Musa as well. Like, those are good goals. I don't think the two centre halves today were the issue. I don't think that's the case at all. And I think in terms of who the best team is or who the best lineup is, I think I prefer Rashford off the left, and I think overall I probably prefer Saka on the right as well. As for everything else, it seems to make perfect sense to me.
And is there a concern in the middle of the park if Rice has got an issue and we don't know? He didn't look as if he was hobbling. Reece James went in there towards the end. He can play there, obviously played there with Chelsea. There's not a lot of other options in the bench, though. He's brought Jordan Henderson with him.
Well, there's Kobe Mainoo as well.
All right.
That's the one which I was surprised that he did. I was surprised that Reece James went into midfield over Kobe Mainoo going in there. And it's not to say that Kobe Mainoo is like a like for someone like Declan Rice. But I was surprised by that. Maybe it was.
He's a player in form, Mainoo, in terms of the season. He was excellent towards the end of the season.
Yeah, but I think from an England perspective, the fact is the manager does have options, and as you said with those subs that they were bringing on, those were excellent subs, and there were more on the bench that could have made a difference as well. So it's positive, and just to pick up on one point which you made, which I think is spot on, when Harry Kane goes all the way back to the defenders to receive the ball, I think that's worthless, just because if I was a defender playing against that, you know what's coming next. And I think when it becomes predictable like that, then teams that are probably more defensively assured themselves and physically there, you'll let him go back there because you don't think
you're not even worried. You're not even worried about him.
Not a jot, no.
Is there any argument that some will say, OK, nice win for England, but look at this Croatia side.
Yeah.
Well past the sell-by date.
A little bit, particularly in the second half when Rashford, Morgan and Saka came on, you could just tell they just couldn't live with them. The pace, the power on that and that counter-attack. It was just they're too dangerous for Croatia to handle. I do worry when they have bigger tests to come. I think technically, in the first half we just gave little sloppy passes away in our half. and invited unnecessary pressure. And I think that will cost us when we play against better opposition. That's why I wouldn't mind seeing Kobbie Mainoo come in at some point. You know, just technically, I think he's the one to shore us up, because he'll go and take the ball under pressure, and he's just smart. He's just a smart player, and I think that we lacked that especially in the first half.
Yeah, if you're playing your strongest midfield players, you've got to play Anderson.
Rice, Anderson, and then the number 10.
Number 10, which is going to be
But
Bellingham.
if Declan's not fit,
That's the best way.
if Declan's not fit,
If Sam is not happening in the game, Kobbie Mainoo can come on, and he's very tight, he's very clever with the ball.
Yeah.
He's a different type of player.
Yeah, he is.
He has that option.
He is, yeah, and I think with Mainoo, if he was to come on, say for example, when Croatia were more so in the ascendancy in this game, as Kieran said, you want somebody that can take the ball under pressure. You know, you're going to take this thing out of the game by keeping the ball instead of just lumping it long and giving it to them. And I think as well, from my perspective with this England side, like England winning the first group game of any tournament isn't actually as common as we think. So for them to be able to do that...
Does anyone win their first group game? I feel like every
Scotland.
stat has got... Well, Spain never win theirs.
Exactly,
Argentina
yeah.
lost to Saudi Arabia.
So we're in some ways we're trying to find like the negative within this itself. But
You've
for
seen
them, it's
this
just the
show
start.
before?
This is, I thought it's YouTube, it's different, but this is like the start. I thought it was a more positive place. It's not Twitter, this, you know.
So where does this rank to other performances that we've seen so far this tournament? So what's the best... France second half were brilliant. Argentina were great. Germany, Curacao, you can talk about...
USA people like this, or you're going to
You could say USA against Paraguay. Where does it rank?
Well, I don't think
with what we've seen?
I don't think it's as stunning as what the US did.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't. But I think it was a much better second half. It was a good performance. Fine. Don't need it anymore. No slip-ups. Would have liked a clean sheet, I'd imagine, but didn't happen. So things to look at. But a lot of positives. I think he really wants quick wide players that are very direct. I think that's pretty obvious, and I think he wants to stretch teams that way, and the more he stretches them in the wider areas, the more room for the number 10, potentially, to make those runs. So I think he wants that. But I think the standout, although, you know, Argentina was great, but they're the world champions. The French are one of the favourites. England are also one of the favourites. So these were good performances. Messi hat-trick, all that. And I'm not just saying this because it's weird, but what the US did was a kind of, you know, it was a stand-up moment and say, well, we've not seen that from this side. Right. Against the Paraguay side that were poor in the night, but have a very good record defensively in common ball. So I think thus far, the US with the best performance in the group stages at the moment.
It was better than Spain. It was certainly better.
Well, thanks, Rob. I'm glad we got you all the way over from England for that hot take.
But the big side, Spain, Portugal, you know, they were teams that you would expect to put in really good performance. They haven't. England weren't as good as one or two of the other performances we just mentioned, so they are about where they are ranked. I would say third or fourth.
Right, Kieran?
Yeah, I agree. I think he would have gotten everything he needed to out of this performance. He's gone for a team. He's picked his squad based on being pragmatic. He's not trying to play anyone off the park. He wants his strikers to score goals. He wants his defenders to defend. He doesn't want his fullbacks bombing on. He doesn't really want his midfielders coming to get the ball and trying to, you know, play progressive. He wants to get the ball in behind, and he wants his moments players to step up and deliver when it matters. And that's exactly what happened today.
Yeah, I think for me, the French second half is probably the one that stood out the most just because they literally went through the gears and for a spell they looked like they were unplayable. You know, that's when you saw like a Michael Olise, you saw an Mbappe, you saw a Doué, you saw all these guys and you're like, wait a minute, this is the thing that so many people were concerned about. I think for England today, they did a very good job and there were times where they were dominant, but it didn't necessarily feel like it was the best
team. You don't feel as though
there.
England could get to that really high level where they play that.
Well, the Senegal
football,
were the African Cup of Nations champions until it was all spun around. So the difference with that and Croatia is Croatia, what they've done with a very small population over the years is incredible. But they're not a side that's on the up at the moment. They're a side that are searching for younger, fresher players. Whereas Senegal are a stronger side than what the French did in the second half.